Train to Busan is directed by Yeon Sang-ho, written by Park Joo-suk, and stars Gong-yoo, Kim Soo-an, Ma Dong-seok, and Jung-yoo-mi. Gotta love these Korean names. And Train to Busan is about a father accompanying his young daughter to Busan so she can stay with his estranged wife. But as they travel by train, a zombie outbreak occurs and they have to find a way to survive. Now, I'm not entirely sure if we were really scheduled to get this movie because I feel like we got it due to popular demand. Like, you know, Korean stuff is really popular in the Philippines and this was not on my radar prior to all my friends talking about it. And I have to thank everyone for clamoring to get this movie because it's a really good movie. Train to Busan does take a while to get started, but when it does get started, it just does not stop. It's a really intense ride that also becomes surprisingly emotional. There's just something about Korean filmmakers and trains. You know, we got Snowpiercer a few years ago and that was an awesome movie. And here we get another well-directed film. Yeon Sang-ho's direction in this movie is really creative when it comes to the set pieces. You know, not everything takes place in the train. You know, there's a set piece early on that takes place at a train station and it's just super intense and it's super fun and they just have a lot of fun with, you know, the environment and all these different characters and the zombies. What I really appreciate is that they take a little bit of time to explain how these zombies kind of differ from zombies from other movies. You know, the thing about the zombies here is that they attack based on sight. So if you cover their eyes or if you block their line of sight, they won't attack you. And they have a lot of fun with that dynamic, but they never nerf the zombies. There's never like a cure-all kind of thing. There's never like some sort of Deus Ex Machina. And one set piece that really impressed me with how it was directed was a certain sequence where a group of characters have to move from one train car to the next and to the next to the next. And every time they go into a new train car, it's still familiar in its claustrophobia, but every train car is a little different. There's like variation in the details that kind of add different challenges for them to overcome, and it kind of felt like playing a video game in a really good way. I have to say though, for people who want to watch this movie, the Train to Busan is not necessarily a scary movie. It never becomes all out scary, but it is emotional. I'm honestly fine with it not being scary because it shows that, you know, it has bigger things on its mind and the messages it ends up sending to the audience are really poignant. There's also some incredible editing in this movie, especially at the beginning when they first get onto the train, because, you know, you get all these characters in the train that are set up really efficiently and they're all recognizable from that point forward. But then when bad things start to happen on the train, like, it really plays around with your sense of paranoia because it shows different things happening at different points in the train and you don't know how far away they are from each other. You don't know if this thing is causing this thing to happen. So it really puts you on edge and it's really well done. And after that point, the editing is really intense and really lends a lot of suspense to the movie, and the action is always coherent. Visually, Train to Busan never becomes as bleak as other zombie films, though again, that's okay because I know that this movie is going for something else. However, the makeup they use for the zombies is still quite effective. There is CGI in the movie, but it's not the best, but it's not bothersome because it's used intelligently. They never overuse it. It never becomes the point of the shot. And they use the setting of the train to maximum effect. Like, they really have fun playing around with like every, you know, tiny corner of the train. And there are some really great shots in this movie, especially when the train starts to go into certain tunnels and there's stretches of time when it's all darkness, and these parts are really intense as well. The sound in the movie is also intelligently understated. You know, there are no loud noises to accompany the scares. You know, the scariest thing you hear are the cracking of the zombies' bones when they stretch and stuff. Like, that stuff gets the job done. And there's a very distinctly Korean musical score throughout the movie that really helps push the emotional moments forward. But I think the thing that I absolutely loved about Train to Busan was the fact that it knows that zombie movies, for as long as they've been around, have always been ultimately an examination of society, and here it's no different. It really illustrates how fear and paranoia can turn ordinary people into really cruel human beings. And I know this will sound like a stretch, but there's a certain scene in the movie where I started thinking this is just like Trump supporters. It's just like xenophobes and racists and anybody who discriminates against another certain kind of people just because they think they're unclean. Like, it was so relevant to today, and they handled it so well. And this approach really works because all of these characters are just so immediately sympathetic. You understand where everybody's coming from, and they all have unique relationships with each other, so they're not just cardboard cutouts. And the cast is definitely solid all throughout. A couple of standouts include Dong-seok, who plays sort of the token strongman character, but he has this everyman quality about him that makes him, you know, relatable. And then the little girl who plays Soo-an, who is also named Kim Soo-an, she's really great. Like, towards the end of the movie, she will have you fragile, and she's, you know, she's not annoying, she plays her role also in a very understated way. Gong-yoo plays the lead character in this movie, and he does have a couple of great moments when he gets to stretch his emotional range. However, overall, I just felt he was a bit too stoic for this role, you know? Like, I didn't feel like he could carry the movie that well, because, you know, when there are zombies on the train, like, I don't think anybody stays that stoic. And there's some family drama at the beginning of the movie that they have to set up that feels a bit obligatory. I just feel like there could have been a better way to set up these story beats. But overall, I really think The Train to Busan is a really good movie. I think if you're a horror fan and if you're a zombie movie fan, you will love this movie. But I also think that if you're not that into horror, you'll still enjoy watching this because it's really fun, it's really intense, and it's not really that scary, which is actually a good thing in this case. Alright, so those are my thoughts on Train to Busan. If you guys have seen it, tell me what you thought about it, and whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.